Hi guys, what's going on, and welcome back to another video on Conqueror's Blade. So, we are going to be going a little bit back in time, back to Season 6 I think. You'd think I'd have checked that one out before I started the video, wouldn't you? But I didn't. The Landsharks. I'm pretty sure, well, I know they're the promoted unit of the Halberdiers, which I think occurred in Season 6, at least on the My Games version. A unit that I've never really used all that much, to be honest. Didn't really play them very much at the time when they came out, and haven't really played them very much since. But, there's a big but, I have got flattened and killed by them quite a lot, because they're really all about the hero killing. Or, at least that's a part of it anyway, because they have a really nice charge. I mean, an infinitely better unit than the Halberdiers, and so I thought, let's go back, give them a proper check out, see what we can do with them, and see if they're actually still a really effective unit in the current meta. And actually, so far, my conclusion would be, yes, they actually are quite good fun, and they're actually fairly effective. I'm currently using down the top line, mostly for the little bits of extra charge damage. They have two abilities, essentially, or well, three. It works in a unique way. So you can't just charge with this unit. You actually first have to brace. So there is a bit of a timing aspect to this. So you can brace, then 2 or 3 seconds after you press the brace button, you'll be able to charge. And then you can charge and land in enemies. And it's not until you actually make contact can you then activate stab and hook, which basically is almost like a force attack, but it also adds a little bit of bleed damage to it. So that actually means that you can do quite a lot of damage on the charge, particularly if you can catch heroes out of position, because you will certainly be getting kills if you can hit the heroes. But then actually you can do a fair bit of damage just to units, not only with the charge, but with the stab and hook afterwards, because it actually does a reasonable amount of damage. They have quite a long reach with their sort of halberds, and you get that little bit of bleed damage on top, all of which makes them quite a nice little unit. In terms of stat-wise, not that many hit points, and obviously not a lot on the armor stats, so they are fairly fragile as a unit, and that's kind of to be expected. In terms of doctrine-wise, I actually haven't changed these doctrines at all since I originally set them up. Not really interested in any of them except two. The charge cooldown and the extra damage to heroes. That's really what I'm going for. I don't use this unit for bracing, so there's a brace one down here. Yeah, there is, so I could reasonably put this brace one on. Certainly, would be worthwhile doing. Or I can also put the increased damage while bracing on as well. But again, don't really use this unit with bracing. I find them to be much more effective just in free attack mode. So I'm bracing, charging, and then using stab and hook really in most of my situations. Does make for kind of an interesting unit though. Obviously a fairly cheap one on the old kit cost, because they're just a tier 3 unit. Yeah, 1600 a kit, so they're fairly easy to maintain, although almost ran out of kits, almost dropped below 50%. So anyway, let's hop into a few battles with them, see what we can do, see if we can flatten a few enemy heroes, and hopefully pick up a few unit kills along the way. So we kick things off on a little bit of Orgolia, everyone's favourite map. And initially, the enemy are starting to get their siege towers pretty close to getting in on the B point. Not sure which one's going to land first, whether we've got the main one sort of coming in here, or the what I think of as sort of number 2, or the secondary one, on the other side of the gateway. But this one lands, get the unit set up at the back, sort of in line with the tower, get them braced, and so effectively, if anything half decent comes up at the tower, we can just sort of charge straight into it. Got to be a little bit careful of trebs, but, hopefully all should go well. And it's a bit of a strange start to this game. Firstly, that longsword hero goes up the wall, and I'm not quite sure what he did. I think these Jav Sergeants are his unit, and he accidentally called them to himself, and so that means they ran up the siege tower. And then he's trying to get rid of them, but he can't, because you see there's just these random tier 4 Jav Sergeants walking up the siege tower. So I don't charge the unit, which was probably a mistake, but I take the opportunity to get stuck in with a hero, and, well, it's a tier 4 unit. Why not use your ult on them when it's just free kills in a case like that? And since it's a decent unit, it seemed worthwhile. Could probably have charged the unit in there. It just seemed like they were quite easy to kill with a hero, really. So I just didn't bother. Didn't quite know what else was going to come up the tower. Anyway, a few seconds later, some more serfs start coming up. Thinking about charging, trying to catch some of these heroes. But then nothing else really follows other than the serfs. So it just didn't really seem worthwhile. I was kind of holding my unit in reserve, which wasn't necessary. I'm not quite sure what this longsword thought was going to happen there. But yeah, should have charged the unit probably in 2 instances now, because the cooldown is actually really quite short. The team starts to go on the counter-attack down the tower, so I think, well, you know, if the enemy's going to hold on the tower, then obviously these guys work great because, you know, you're charging down a really narrow tower. But unfortunately, the enemy team retreats. So you may think, Evo, why are you wasting my time? Why have you included this clip? We've not even seen anything on these land sharks yet. Well, interesting, it is about to kick off soon, because on tower number 2, we've got a little bit of stuff starting to come up. Just keep the unit on the other side of the wall for now, because I don't want to get too caught. You know, I want a clean charging run. I don't want to be sort of on the other side of trying to get around a corner. So I pull back to get myself a little bit of an angle, turn around, brace the unit. The enemies engage our grey hairs at the front of the unit, which gives me a lovely charging opportunity, and this is where this unit excels. See how many kills we pick up just on the charge in. Really nice, perhaps 20 odd kills on the charge in, and then obviously they can get stuck in with their halberds, and they just butcher in this sort of case. Really quite a high damage unit for this sort of situation. We push on to a few other land sharks of their own, but I didn't fancy going toe to toe with the grey hairs. Quite a narrow little corridor there, and effectively I'll just be walking into the front of them because my charge is still on cooldown, and that I didn't fancy. But it seems like the rest of our team did, and they got stuck into them fairly effectively. But as I go over, Trebs land. Thankfully, unlike normal, I managed to notice the Trebs before I completely walked into them, and we got away with it. Immediately though, it's not over yet because we get palace guards coming down. They charge, I counter-charge. Obviously, I'm going to win in this situation on the charge, and look at the amount of damage we get as we slam into the front of that tier 4 unit. These guys are effective. Remember, these are a tier 3 halberd unit. They're not very expensive. And just on the charge alone, we killed, what, half the unit of palace guards? Maybe 2/3 of the unit then with the follow-up attacks. This unit can really dominate higher tier units than itself. It's one of the few tier 3 units, along with things like condos, prefecture guards, a few other interesting stuff, that actually are really a viable unit and can compete with tier 4 and tier 5 units actually fairly effectively. But anyway, with the damage done there, we actually haven't really taken any losses, but quite a bit of damage, so I could do with getting back to the supply point on the other end of the map at the C point. So start to make my way over there. I do just check to see if anything's pushing up the B tower. I tried to hop to see if I could see further over the wall. Yeah, just looking like an idiot. As usual, Evo, what an idiot. But we head back to the C point because there's also quite a bit of stuff pushing up. Team comes with us. And I decide to take the risk and go past the front of this tower. Now, I got away with it. Could easily not have done. There's quite a bit of stuff there. They could have charged and easily caught my unit out, so I'm quite pleased I got away with that. Get over to the other side, get the unit to start healing up. Thankfully, teammate over here pulls out some Iron Reapers, so it gives me a little bit of a cushion. And I'm just taking the time to heal up. But the enemy makes their move. We start to get some imp pikes come around the corner, and they go on to advance. The Iron Reapers still give them a fairly effective charge, but I have to really wait a little bit initially until the Impike walk is over, or I've knocked enough of them down, and then we can charge in, and we get a few kills on them, although not all that many. I then try and get clear of the front of the tower, but Axe Raiders. And I decide to go for them. Wanted to test the unit, push the unit fully in, go straight in, go on for my hook and stab, get that bleed damage. And this is just a one-on-one fight, really, between us as Land Sharks versus these Axe Raiders. And it really works quite effectively. Yes, we lose about half the unit to them, but we are a lower tier unit, and it is Axe Raiders, like the most dominant unit in the game at the moment. We haven't yet had the balance adjustment, hasn't yet made it to the My Games version. I think it's got that coming next week. So you can see how it's a super dominant unit, up to 80 kills or something now. And it's only tier 3, and that's why I really like them. I think that's why people play them so much, because they can be really quite effective. We start to still get stuff pushing up the siege tower. I know they're starting to cap B at this point, but there didn't seem a lot of benefit to just sort of abandoning the C point. Unfortunately, get hit by that Treb, but it only manages to kill 1 or 2 of the unit. And we're still getting pressured from this tower. Thought about pulling back, but with what we've got left, it's not really worth it. We get a couple of palace guards coming up. I thought more was going to push, so I started to brace, but then we get these Senju Grenadiers coming up. So I reposition the unit, thinking, right, come on, perfect opportunity. Can we get the charge into the tier 5? Go for the charge. It doesn't really pan out very nicely on the charge. I'm not quite sure what stopped them. They just sort of get caught on the edge of the tower and don't charge up it very nicely. But I thought, I am not stopping here. Onwards! And we start to chase them down the tower. Pushing the unit down. You can see the Senji hero panicking slightly as he's trying to get them down. The short bow goes down. We pin down, get rid of the glaive. And that gives us a free run on this unit of Senjis. And there we go. A tier 5 taken down as well. Halberdiers certainly proving their worth. These LandsKnechts, a very, very nice little unit. I pull back up the tower. Not got a lot of hit points left myself here at this point. As we're pulling up the tower, though, and I start to send them back to the supply point, we get counterattacked by this poleaxe hero. I brace and basically charge as soon as I can. If I'd have been a second earlier, our charge, that poleaxe hero, as he hopped off his horse, would have landed and got insta-killed by the charge. But unfortunately, I was just a second too slow and it didn't quite pan out for us. But anyway, only a short video today as I'm off to the pub. But hopefully it was still an enjoyable one. If it was, do let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do let me know how you've been getting on with your own land sharks, and I shall see you guys all in the next video.